So tonight I wanted to speak about some standards. I've had a few instances just in the last week that I wanted to speak to you guys about. Uh, Basically, chatting to a lot of dudes, chatting to a lot of guys on online, and then even coffee shops and whatever, and then mates as well. It's become quite clear to me that there are a lot of standards in fatherhood that aren't being met that would suit us being the best fathers. And I mean this as collective. And I wanted to ask you guys for some feedback on this because I don't know if I'm just being a prick. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't give a fuck what everyone thinks because I'm just going to do what I stand by and what I resonate with. But I wanted to chat with you guys openly about it because I can, it's an open space. We can chat about what we stand for and what we're against. But I wanted to hear from you guys. What are what is it that you guys stand against as a dad? Like that's not on. That's not what I would. That's not what I value as a father. That's not something that I agree with. It's actually not. It's something that I would separate myself from. It's something that I'd say no to, like pull someone up. There's been a few things. One of them was a dad getting on the bag at a first birthday, and I was just like, I just it fucking does my head in. I'm like, pull your head in. Like seriously. Uh, yeah, it was at a mate's son's first birthday. I wasn't there, but the boys were telling me that he was on the bag and like pretty well running amok. Was like rowdy, and I just thought, fuck, man, what's going through this dude's head to be a first birthday as a dad and be getting on the bag? So yeah, I don't know. Just that was like I like distance myself from him now, like in mentally. I just like nah. I'm just I wouldn't want my kids around him. I wouldn't even want my friends around him. Wouldn't want my partner around him. I wouldn't want to be around him. Like I don't know. What do you guys? What's your like main things that you stand against as a father?
Dude, I stand against heaps of stuff. That's why I pretty much joined this group and contacted you about this stuff because ever since I've become a dad, it's been super apparent to me how I want my child to live and what I want to allow my kids to do, especially when they're super young. And what comes with that is like bringing myself into congruence. Like if you're going to have high standards for your kids, like you've got to bring yourself into it as well. So I guess probably my biggest one has been food. Um, for my kids, my in-laws, like his grandparents and everything, I'm a stickler for food, what they give him and all sorts of stuff. Like, but if I'm going to do that, it can be quite abrasive, even like my own mum and stuff like that. I'm like, no, you don't bring that shit here, things like that. And it's sort of, I guess if you're going to be doing that, you've got to you've got to walk the walk as well. So, I mean, yeah, I agree with you about that first birthday with that. Like that's, if I never pulled my shit together, that would have been me. Like, fortunately, I'd never done that around kids and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I guess I don't know, it can be packaged up into one big thing. It's sort of that's that's at the higher end of the scale. Like that's just nonsense. That what you're talking about, getting on doing coke at a first birthday and all that sort of stuff. That's crazy. Like that's just stupid, ridiculous sort of stuff. Like if you're going to do that stuff, there's a if you're going to, like, there's a time and place for that. But for me, it's more of the little things that people don't think about, like the food and all that sort of stuff. Even down to smaller things like whom like what people are talking like around my child. Like if people are talking, and I'm not trying to change anyone. Like I have done in the past, but like been a big mouth trying to screw things. But like at this stage, I'm not trying to change anyone. But if people don't even speak or like have the right energy around my kids, like I'm not going to bring them around there too much.
Mm,
you know, it's the whole persona of everyone. Like it's a whole package. It's not just like single events like you were speaking about in terms of the birthday party. It's everything.
yeah, for sure. The food one's a massive one. I feel like we've all once you become healthy, it is a thing that you battle with the grandparents or the, in-laws or whatever it is, even like friends' birthday parties and shit. It's just you just got to have boundaries in place. Like people say, "Oh, you're being too restrictive," and it's like you don't have to deal with my
Yeah,
child later. It's and you notice it. You notice a
yeah,
big difference. You notice a big difference when you feed these kids shit. When you pump them full of sugar and when you pump them full of grains and processed food, they're different kids. And so you can say you're being restrictive, and people can say, "Oh, you're too harsh." Man, Indy, for example, loves fruit, and we let him go ham on fruit. But I'm not going to let him
yeah,
Fruit Loops and dog shit fucking served in a packet because it's going to make muck his brain up and muck his microbiome up.
yeah. Agree, 100%. No, exactly. It's it's a good starting point, but with the food and stuff, and that's why I've been strict on it myself because it's important to me.
Yeah. How about you other fellas,
Mm.
Nico?
Yeah, well, I had a customer yesterday actually at the front because I do breathalyzers and stuff like that for drink driver offenders. So when you get done for drink driving, you lose your license for X amount of time, and then I put a breathalyzer in your car. So every 3 months, you come back to me and I service it for them. And yesterday, I had a go at a customer. She was smoking over top of her grandchild while they were watching a little movie and stuff like that. And I had a go at her because the poor kid was there as I was doing what I was doing, was coughing. And she's like, "Oh, cover your mouth up." And I was turning around to her and said, "Well, stop smoking over top of the kid. It's not helping that child out. Just breathing that shit in." So yeah, she arced up at me, and I just had to bloody lay it down at her. Like, yeah, just not on. I hate people like that. I just don't like people that smoke around children. It's the worst thing ever.
Yeah, see, that's another one. It's another one that's like these are these things, and it's good on you for saying something
Mm.
because these people need a situation where they have to contemplate their behaviors. Like if people don't say things, that's how the world gets fucking slippery. And
That's right.
it's not to shame them and tell them they're a piece of shit and you're a fuckhead and all this. It's just like, hey, think about the kids, think about the other person. Like if you're gonna
Mm.
do that behavior, just do it in private somewhere, or think about your actions before you do it in front of children. It's uh it's just brutal, and there's such a lack of awareness. I feel like in especially in dads with some of the shit that I heard in the last week. It's just like pissed me off just hearing about it. But
Mm.
I wanted to ask you guys like what do you stand against? Like for me, the verbal abuse thing is a no go. Like if anyone's verbally abusing a child or even their partner, I'm like, come on, dude, take a fucking breath and then talk through it. Right. And we all have our blow ups. Like I'm not perfect. I've had my blow ups and smash a hole in the wall and shit like that. Like, well, not for a long time, but when you learn to get control of your emotions, you can handle situations so much better. And it's better for everyone. It's better for the person who's, so and so in the wrong, or it's better for you if you're in the wrong, or it's better for, whatever. The kids take a breath and actually process the situation with some level headedness and move.
Mm.
The other one is, being way too physical with kids. And yeah, drugs and alcohol. Even the booze is an interesting one because a lot of people think it's okay to be drunk about around kids. I don't know. That doesn't sit well with me. What do you guys got? What are your boundaries around booze? Is it okay to be pissed? Is it okay to have one or couple?
Well, definitely not. Like, yeah, as I say, I was quite a heavy drinker myself. As you know, like I've drank shitloads. And I have always had my kids looking at me like, "Oh, you're just a pisshead, dad," and all this kind of stuff. And my dad was a heavy drinker. My brother became a heavy drinker. My sister as well. It just seems to be a chain effect happening until I had the health scare and stuff like that. That's when I kind of stopped and thought, well, kind of upsets me too. My kids call me a drunk and a pisshead and go to bed, dad, you're an idiot. Turn the music down, you're too loud and stuff like that. That my kids shouldn't be saying that. Should be the other way around, me telling them to be quiet. So yeah, so it's just one of those things. They look at us where they're basically their mentor for them for growing up. So we got to show them the right thing, I guess, at the end of the day.
100%. And well done for breaking the chain, for redirecting the patterns in your family. So
Yeah.
common and so hard to break, because ultimately it comes down to you to take responsibility and swallow that pill and go, right, I'm gonna shift things here. That's a big one. How about you, Tom? Some against some things you stand against?
Yeah, I was just going to say the same there. Obviously, the side of setting the example and being around the little ones, but also for me, it was that practical side as well of shit. If something goes wrong, A, you need to be able to think clearly, and B, you might need to drive them to the hospital or doctor or whatever. It's all that kind of, that second layer of thinking that you have to have the whole time of you can't do that. And I'm not saying I'm never going to have a drink again, but it's always got to be that consideration.
Yeah.
You just no one can claim that they think clearly when you've had a few drinks. It's just not right, and you might not pick up on something that the kid's doing, or you just don't know. So all the things that have been mentioned so far in terms of food, booze, drugs, definitely properly resonate. I mean, what I asked myself when you were saying that is what would that guy at that birthday party have had to do to get to the point where you would have said something to them? Like I mean, that's.
I heard about what he was doing, and I said the other boys thought it was funny. We're having a coffee, and the other boys thought it was funny, and I straight up said, "Why didn't anyone say anything?" And they went, "Oh, you know what he's like." I said, I actually don't care these days. You're a father. You see kids. This is a kid's birthday party. Like, he supposedly was like riding the little horse, the pinata horse, and like pretending to root it, and he was just being fucking loose. And the boys thought it was like kind of funny because he was like, he's a guy that always got loose. And I'm like, look, when we're 20, like when we're in our teens, that shit's a laugh, because you don't have any maturity, right? You're just running amok, and you've got very little awareness around other people and the impact it has. But with the badge of a father and the values that you carry for your family, do you want your kids exposed to that stuff? And it's like, if he's been a dickhead, I would have stepped in, because he started being real running amok through like the party. I said, we'll just put him and said, "Hey bro, just chill. Like, I know you're playing up. It's a kid's birthday party. These kids don't need to see you being like this." And it's like, you can be fear being judged or whatever. I'm at a point in my life where I'm just like, me and my family are the most important things in my world. If you're gonna be a kook and fucking try and sabotage that in some way, I'm gonna stop you from doing it. And it was it just got me a bit fired up, because I thought, man, because he's got two awesome little kids. They mean well, but they're starting to be a bit bratty. And I was just thinking, fuck, these kids don't have a chance, right? They're just watching their dad just run amok, and like the mum, he's not with his missus anymore, so like they're split up already. And I'm just like, dude, these kids are good kids, but they're under this dickhead who is just playing up. And it's hard to watch that shit. When you've got your own kids, it's actually hard to watch someone else's kids have to go through that. Anyway,
I mean, perhaps he's on some level he's waiting for someone to call him up. Sounds like he's unhappy and not in a good place, so maybe he needs someone to say that this has been noticed. Do you know what I mean? I think something I've heard, I've mates in the past who have gone through bad times, and it's only when you call them up on it that they might fall apart a little bit, but that's the only way to get someone back on track, isn't it? So sounds like he needs someone to call out his shit.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think he's one of those guys that needs the rock bottom to wake him up. You know, he's a lot of people have said you need to get this under control. I think it's like that hardcore mentality of like something would really have to fuck up for him to maybe change his ways, and maybe that's the journey he's on. But anyway, but yeah. So another question is like, in terms of your own standard or your standards or things you stand against in other fathers or other dads, what is it that you were doing before you joined the program that you weren't proud of? Like, what's the little things that you were doing? What's the shit you weren't proud of that you're doing? But then, you know, you're like, okay, I'm going to join Legacy, or through joining Legacy Dads and doing the values and being in conversations, you're like, I need to clean that stuff up. I need to stop it. I know, Nick, yours was drinking and sitting on the couch too much.
Yeah, I love my couch. It's good. Yeah, mine's all sorts of things.
If you all good.
That's it. Yeah, like I used to stay at work for long hours and stuff like that because obviously that car behind me, I work on that day in, day out. So the thing was, I wasn't really giving time for the kids. For me being home, I was just like my old boy, just work and more work. And then when my time was freed up, I was working on my race truck till all hours of the night. I won't be home till about 9 o'clock at night sometimes, just working on that thing. And then I'll come to the weekend. I think the only day I'll have spare, or maybe the Sunday, but that's a Sunday drink day. You know what I mean? Like you wake up in the morning, get to about 10 o'clock, and get into it. And yeah, you're still hanging out with the kids, but you know, at the end of the day, you're not all there. You're only half there because the other half of you is bloody in La La Land with the alcohol. So, like, yeah, I'm just glad I changed my ways, man. I'm glad I had this scare, because if I don't think if I had it, I'll probably be 6 foot under. Who knows?
That's huge. You were staying at work to avoid hanging with the family.
That's what I felt like it was. That's because, like, as I said to my old boy, like I said to him, it's like, Dad, you're never around my whole childhood. Like, Dad was always at work, and I just never saw him. I was always, you know, about Mum, I had to ask her how to shave and stuff like that, you know. Or, Mum, I got this funny looking thing on my penis. What's this? You know, like, you know, what do I do? Oh, you've got to wash it. You've got to do this. Oh, okay. You know, all these things. But Dad was never there to ask the questions because he was always at work. I was thinking, yeah, you know, I don't need to be like that. I've got to change. So, yeah. And because obviously my kids are a lot older now. You know, my daughter's almost 17 and my son's almost 15 and whatnot. And, you know, they're coming into the part of their lives where they do need us as well when they get older. Like, obviously, they need us when we're younger, of course. But, you know, they're coming into their adulthood where they need a kind of the right guidance and the right know-hows. But yeah, just at the end of the day, you know, my mum was there, but the old boy was always working, and I think that's my problem. I was starting to do as well, as be like my old boy, and I hate that idea. Don't get me wrong, I love him, but yeah, I've got to go my own direction.
They only knew what they knew, and well done for changing it up and then having the compassion for him and forgiveness. So, oh yeah, man, wow. So, what about you other fellas? What was the things that you were doing that you weren't necessarily proud of? But then, so like it's like the little stuff that you're doing, you know you shouldn't be, but you're just like, oh, it doesn't really matter. But it's the stuff that eats you up.
Mine was probably, just drinking a bit in the afternoons, and I think even though I only have a few beers or whatever, then you'd just be like, oh no, I don't want to go down the park with the kid. You know, I want to be close to my fridge so I can get the next beer, and you just get a bit slack. Like, I wouldn't say, I'm like crazy drinker, but yeah, that's just something I wanted to change, and that's been a good thing.
And it's even 1 or 2 beers makes a difference in the other way.
Oh yeah, yeah. And the next day, just a bit doughier.
So people don't think the 1 or 2 beers matters. Oh, it's just 1 or 2 beers after work on a weekday. But what's the compounding effect of that? What's the negative effect through the week?
Yeah, I mean, you get worse sleep. Get worse sleep. You just the worst day the next day. So you think you sleep better, but you don't.
Hmm. And then I'm guessing, because I've never really been an arvo drinker after work. I fortunately was out of the trades system pretty early. I had 18 months doing a trade and pissed off to
Yeah.
18. But I can imagine there's a lack of self-trust, like a lack of confidence, because you're taking this easy route, you're taking the lazy route, you're kind of like using it as a stress release. But in
Yeah,
the long run, the stress is actually compounding because you're on the drink constantly.
yeah, yeah. And then you're not going to train if you'd rather have a drink. So yeah,
Yeah, so
nothing good about it really.
it's like 1 step back, 10 steps further back.
Yeah.
And no
Yeah.
steps going forward when you're pissed. How about you, Az and Tom?
Mine was much the same, dude. I guess it's the same story with a lot of us as blokes. My biggest one was alcohol, which was it was stopping me a lot, but it wasn't really. I don't know. It's not the alcohol that's the problem for me. It's the abuse of it. Is looking to get, even if you would just have one beer of an afternoon. It's just the inability to deal with everyday life and just normal stresses and running a business and having kids and doing this and making sure things get done so things roll on. And I just wasn't handling it. And I would turn to the alcohol to do it for me. And you get that hit that, like for me, I'd have a sip of a beer in the afternoon. I'd feel, oh, everything's better. That feels better. That's good. All my problems have gone away for a couple of hours. But then you make the promise that you're going to go to the gym the next morning. Every night I make the promise to myself, I'm going to go to the gym in the morning, going to go to the gym in the morning. But I had 3 or 4 beers, so I didn't do it. And then the self-esteem just gets pummeled and it's just backwards compounding. And like for me, I say it was the alcohol, but it wasn't. I was just using the alcohol to deal with life in the worst way. And since I've given it up and swapped it out for respecting myself with diet and training constantly, my life has compounded back the other way. Things are so much better in every way. Like the major thing for me at the moment that I was thinking of today is I've been with my missus for 12 years this year, and she's never respected me so much as of like the last month or so since I've known her. And it's crazy, just a couple of simple things like that. I don't think alcohol is the devil. It's just depends on what you use. Like if you're some person that doesn't drink it all the time and you're not phased by it, and you're out to dinner and I said you want to have a couple of drinks, like it's whatever. But for me, I'm having a whole year off it because it's been advice for me, and I want to change the relationship with it. I don't want to use it as a tool to relieve the stress or have that perceived relief of stress, which is not actually that at all. It's just putting more stress on top of yourself the next day and compounding it. So, which brings anxiety. It doubles down on the stress, brings anxiety. Like I touched on it rips your self-esteem. Like every day, you chip a little bit off your self-esteem, so you're just going backwards in all areas. And you might just suck it up and keep running your business and doing your work and getting things done, and that might bring it back a little bit, but not to the extent where you're chipping into it at all.
Congrats, bro. That's such an epic move for you.
Yeah. Cheers. Appreciate it.
You can really sense it in your energy too. It's interesting when you hear someone who's taken that on, like yourself, made that decision, and then the shift in your delivery of your own thoughts, the delivery of who you are as a person, the delivery of what you stand for is so much clearer and so much stronger that I trust you when I hear you. Like I can hear it in your voice. I trust you. I can see it in your actions daily in the Telegram chat. And I can actually tell you're making the changes. Versus someone who's, spitballing and tripping over their tongue and telling you they're going to do this and going to do that. Like you're clearly like, I'm going to have a whole year off because I know it was advice and I want to change the relationship with it.
Yeah, like I can feel it in myself too. Like I almost feel angry when I'm talking, like in any conversation lately, but it's just because I'm serious, like I feel serious about what I'm talking about, and my words are coming into congruence with my actions, and it's easier to speak and speak truthfully when that's the case. So yeah, it's good. Going well.
Mate, that's awesome. That's awesome. Simon, we're just discussing things we stand for and things we stand against as dads. Things like being drunk around kids, being on drugs around kids, swearing, abusing, like verbal, physical abuse, being too rough, eating shitty food with your kids or around your kids and not having discipline or boundaries around the people that look after them. All the things that come into parenting. From your standpoint, mate, having teenagers, or actually Maisie's not, she's like 15, is she 16 or something? Hold on, you're on mute, brother.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, guys, sorry I'm late. Shit, 7:30. Yeah, so my kids are teenagers. I've got a 16-year-old daughter and I've got a son, and this is really relevant, mate. I've got a son who's just turned 18. He was 18 last Thursday. And I witnessed something in him last week because I have my kids 50-50. So they float between my ex and I. And he had 20 of his mates here last Friday night that are all about, I'd say 6 months, maybe 9 months older. So they've been on the party train, pub club train for 6 to 9 months. And Harry's just been biding his time. He's been the youngest in his group of mates from footy, nippers, school, etc. And I was just so proud of him last week where, I had a heap of pissheads here, which is fine. It's his 18th and you know what you're like when you're 18, generally. But Jordan would know this. So Harry's, he ice baths. He's just finished another carnivore, probably a 2-month carnivore diet. He goes to the gym 4 times a week. Jordan actually trained him when he was a young aspiring footy player when he was about 10 or 11. But yeah, I'm getting off track. So the thing that I was proud of it was, and I don't know whether this is going to answer your question, mate, but like he was really sensible. Yeah, he got a bit buzzy, but he didn't get smashed, and all his mates got smashed. And I got up early the next morning to expecting a bit of a debacle. And Harry and I were up at probably 6:15 on Saturday morning, just cleaning the house together. And all his mates were just smashed out on the bloody couch, and as you'd expect them to be. That probably doesn't answer your question, mate. But yeah, I think that my kids are seeing what I'm doing and the changes I'm making, and as they're heading off to work and school, I'm under the house doing my training, and I think that certainly helps that they see. And they know I have this catch up with you guys once a week. They see what I'm eating. I see I'm sleeping better. I'm probably not as moody. Harry's in particular asking me about it. So he's interested in it as well. But yeah, I think what I've seen, particularly in my son, is the values I've laid down. Yet I'm still trying to I'm still trying to improve as a dad, as a man. I've still got a long way to go, but yeah, I don't know whether that, buddy, answers your question, mate, or it's completely off topic.
No, it does. It does. It's very relevant to what we're talking about. So first of all, that's what you stand for. Is you've laid some foundations, obviously, through your life. You haven't been a complete pisshead or running amok or whatever. He's not grown up around a dad like that, and it showed in his relationship with alcohol. And you've probably had plenty of chats with him, and been a man-to-man chat, father-to-son chat, and talked about that stuff. And he's also he's a responsible young man. I've met him multiple times, worked with him when he was younger, but then met him later on, years down the track, and he's got his head screwed on. And so that's great, a feedback mechanism for you to go, cool, like my son has some integrity, has some values, has some core direction, and isn't too easily swayed, which is a massive win as a dad, right? I mean, I'm nowhere near that. Indy's 2.5, but I can only imagine what it's like to be having that relationship with your kids when you're older and actually be proud of the decisions they're making in that environment.
Yeah, I agree, mate. And case in point, like he had 3 mates that came up from Toowoomba, 2 mates from Brisbane that have obviously since moved away in the last 12 months, and they're really good close friends of his. So his party was Friday night, and then Saturday afternoon I got home from work and he said, Dad, what are you up to tonight? I said, mate, nothing, just putting a steak on the barbie and just chilling. He said, look, a lot of my mates want to go down to the Dewporth Tavern and go clubbing at Ocean Street. Do you mind if I hang out with you? I said, mate, epic. So it was his birthday weekend, and he had 5 mates up here from away, and plus all his local mates, and he's just turned 18. So yeah, mate, I like to think that my kids are seeing through me what I'm doing, how I've always trained, as you know, Jordan. I've always trained. I've always had problems with my weight, certainly with my diet. So yeah, I think that you set the foundations and they see what you're doing. And yes, I don't know, I'm probably the oldest in the group. I'm in my late 50s, and I'm still trying to be a better person and certainly be a better role model for them.
No, it's awesome. It's so good. And yeah, I mean, props to you to see that behavior exhibited is awesome. All right, moving on at another question for you guys, because thinking about that instance with the first birthday. So for context, Simon, one of the guys that I know through mates, was at a first birthday. He was on the coke, heavily was running amok, trashing the party, like acting like a goon. And basically the boys thought it was funny, and I said, like, why didn't anyone say something, like there's kids around? And I was thinking, like, what's the oh shit moment for you guys? What's the like, oh fuck, I need to fix my shit. Like I need to fucking take responsibility and I need to get my shit together. What was that moment for you guys? Like Nick's was obviously the heart scare. Tom, what was your oh shit moment?
It's a bit different. Really. I've spent quite a few years sort of changing things around, so I was on quite a clean path, and I'd sort of changed my approach to that over, probably since sort of the COVID years, that sort of time. So I felt your question before was that there wasn't really anything I was doing at that point that was really too negative to look at and go, but that's not good. That's I'm in a different position. My 2 boys, I've got twins, they're only 16 months, so it's quite inspiring hearing like stories of you dads with older kids, that those sort of bonds. That's kind of what I aspire to have with my little ones. But I think for me I've just become apathetic. I think that more than it was anything I was doing that I didn't like what I was doing. It was just that I just let things rinse over me, and I wasn't being proactive. I'd got lazy. It was, I don't know if anyone else got twins, but it's the same with all babies. But when you double it up, it was fucking hard work. I mean, that first year, even now, it's still, it's it's intense. And I think I probably just let that, become excuses. And I think that was what was in my head, just excuses like, oh, don't worry, it's going to be better in a year. Fuck training. Oh, it doesn't matter if you have this bread. I'm living in the south of France. I mean, the food's insane. So, I mean, I've just got bread and croissant and everything, wherever you go, and it's just that making those decisions of kind of like, it doesn't matter, you're under the cosh at the moment. So it doesn't matter. Just let it go, let it go, let it go. And I think probably when you said, what was my old shit moment? My old shit moment was I've always been fit and strong. And George, who's the bigger of my two twins, and he was only probably 8 kilos at this point. I was getting back pain lifting him out of his cot in the mornings, and I was, in fairness, I was spending a lot of time holding them both. But to me, it's like, he's 8 kilos. I mean, like, I would have laughed at my patients in the clinic who used to come in and go, I was like, you just need to do a bit of training, you'll be fine. I've always taken a lot of pride in myself, and I was like, fuck, this isn't just like a bit of like overuse either. I was getting proper pain and like radiating. I was like, fucking hell, what's going on? I feel like I've aged like 3 decades in like 6 months or whatever. I'd never have thought, that would have been a problem. So that was, picking them up and then going back to bed and just having pains, all the pain, every single injury I'd had. I used to play professional rugby, like, and I'd sort of got to a point where I was relatively pain-free. Every single one of those injuries from those like 20 years fucking started hurting again. And that was my old shit moment. Like, fuck, if I don't sort this out, look, I can no longer be apathetic and lazy and just go, it's all right, I'll sort it out at a later stage. If I don't sort this out now, I'm going to be on a surgical table. That's literally the point I got to. I was like, I need to get back strong, otherwise I'm going to be fucked, because they're only going to get fucking heavier.
Yeah. And so in those moments, like as a dad, if you don't clean yourself up, like if you don't get your shit together, if you don't get your values right, if you don't get your health right, if you don't get your discipline right, where does it lead to? Like, what do you fear happening? Is it your kids? Is it your wife, partner? Is it your business? Like, what are the biggest fears that you guys get? For me, it's the biggest fear for me is that like Nicola would leave me. Like she would go, you're being a drop kick, you're being a fucking idiot, you don't look after your health, you don't treat the kids right. Like that's one of my biggest fears. Now I know that kids not liking you would be intense, but I'm aware that more often than not, relationships break down before the bond before children break down. So for me, a priority in our family is prioritizing that, avoiding that fear, like doing everything I can to be the man for Nicola, and constantly listening to her about her needs and wants, which are very different from mine. So being on that love language level, understanding her psychology, her needs, how she needs to be met. That's been a big growth for me. But that's like one of the biggest fears that I have had as a dad. It's like I don't. My parents split up. I wouldn't want that for my kids. And that's like one of my goals is to really just love and do everything I can for my kids, my children's mother, so that we continually have an incredible bond. So I don't know. What do you guys? What's the worst case? Like, if you're not being a healthy dad, where does it lead?
Yeah, just fast answer that before I mute myself. But exactly what you just said, like this unhealthy. I think it was. You hear me out? Yeah, you muted me. Maybe I'm rambling. Obviously, fair enough. I think it's just that exactly what you just said. The getting that respect from your partner, not wanting to be. We've got a strong bond, but not. We all know that when our moods are different, we're probably not as supportive to our partners, and vice versa. So just maintaining that, so that there's the boys aren't around too much rowing, too many raised voices, too many sulks, whatever it might be. Just trying to find an environment they're kind of that nurtures them. Yeah, you can mute me now.
I think for me, mate, so I've been on my own for many years without a partner, but been a single dad for the majority of the kids' lives. I think for me, the worst outcome I could possibly imagine is that my children lose respect for me and they just don't see me as a person that they can come to for advice, that they can't look up to, that they can't get guidance from. And I know, no disrespect to their mother, but yeah, there's always battles you go through with your kids, and yeah, you're on a path with them. But for me, it would be that you become a bit of an embarrassment. You just become a bit of a, I don't know, a blockage in their lives. They can't, because I'm not sure, and I obviously know Jordan, but I don't know about, and Tom, you've just explained how old your twins are, so congratulations, mate. As you become you learn so much as a father and a partner when your kids grow up, and there's different lessons along the way, but you want to make sure that they're going through that phase in their life that they can always, I mean, when they're young, they're not going to, but obviously when they're old enough and they want advice, I just think the worst for me would be that my kids feel that they're embarrassed by me through my life choices, through my diet, through my lack of exercise, through just being a bit of a pig, and not respecting other people, and just losing that respect. That would be the worst for me.
%. How about you, Az? If you hadn't changed, what was the fear? What was the doom and gloom?
Yeah, I just didn't want to become a fucking loser, man, to be honest. Like, to put it bluntly. Growing up as a kid, I was constantly looking for any male that I could respect, and I couldn't find it. And like, the goal would be to get to where Simon is. Like, honestly, that's inspirational that your son Simon just wants to hang out with you when he's 18. Like, that says that of him. It says more of your relationship and more of you as a dad than anything else. Like, that's so awesome. That's all it is. So I want to be a man. I want to respect myself. I want to just continue to try to respect myself as much as possible, so I look like a respectable person for my children. Like, that's all it is. Simple. Like, that's the main thing for me. Like, that boils in my blood. Like, I just want to be that. Okay. And I don't want to be overbearing or whatever, and just make my whole existence about being a dad. But I want to make it a big part of myself. And yeah, my wife's important to me as well, and all that sort of stuff. But it's more of just the family as a whole unit. And I want to be a man that I would have liked to have as a dad. That's all. Yeah, that's what it is. So obviously, if that's the goal, yeah, then you got to do all the work. Like, I got to keep trying with business. I got to keep taking risks with that and trying new things and looking after myself physically by working out and watching what I do put into my body, and showing up when I'm home from work, how I show up, and just trying to do that best as possible. All of those things, really.
And if you hadn't taken action and made these changes, what's the fear? What's the outcome that you fear?
That I wouldn't be a person worthy of respect. Like, probably that my wife wouldn't respect me, and because she's an adult now and she can see, like, she knows the way we should be acting as adults. Like, my son, he's only just turned 3. Like, I got time for him. He just loves me whenever I'm just near him at the moment. But as time goes on, he will have higher standards and he'll expect certain things of me that my wife can see now. So yeah, I guess the biggest fear is, yeah, for my wife to just not have any respect for me, which means that's just has an effect over the whole family. Your kids can feel that, I guess, and you know, not every relationship works out and whatever. And I believe sometimes it is better for, you know, people have kids with each other and things change, and sometimes it is better for them to break up. Like I've seen people in relationships stay in it for the kids, and it's a terrible relationship. I think that could do more harm, but yeah, the biggest fear is that for sure. For sure. Just living in a home with a wife that just is looking at you going, "What are you doing, mate? You're a loser."
Like it's brutal. It's a brutal thought. It's an absolutely brutal thought to sit with.
Yeah,
We all
for
know
sure.
deep down. If there's plenty of dickheads out there, and if you're going to be a dickhead, good luck getting respect from women.
Yeah.
Especially the woman who means the most to you.
Yeah, 100%. And she's great as well. So it's like she's upholding a standard constantly. And if you're not meeting that, it's pretty obvious.
Yep, certainly is.
You've got to match it.
Certainly is. How about you, Dean? If you I mean, you've told me that you've gone in and out of phases with health and whatever the last couple of years and training and this and that. If you don't keep healthy and you kind of let yourself go, what is it that you fear? Is it the body? Like, is it becoming incapable, or is it, you know, the family breaking down? What's the shit you don't want to happen? Oh, we lost him. We might tune back in. Nick, yours is obviously a big one is health, like your actual living and breathing, being there for your family. Was there anything else that you're shitting yourself about when you're unhealthy?
Oh, I always shit myself. Yeah. Oh, mate, it's an endless things with me, mate. That's yeah. Um, yeah. Now with like before and now is completely different. Like, you know, me and my wife are like, you know, we've been together for like 20 years or something like that now. Married for almost 15 years next year, I think it is. Yeah. So I've been around for a while now, us two. But yeah, like for me, 6 months ago, I started this journey and whatnot. We've actually pretty much re-sparked again like crazy, and she's got full respect for me and I have full respect for her, and we're not at each other's throats and whatnot. If she needs a hand, at times I always roll my eyes and go, more stuff, but but it's not as bad as what it used to be when she wouldn't even bother asking me because still the answer would be is no, get stuffed. So yeah, like the kids are the same, like they respect me more and more each day. Even when I talk to them, I'm not yelling at them. I'm just calmly talking to them to tell them to do something without blowing a gasket. So yeah, it's the respect you want to get given and obviously give back as well. Is always the biggest thing.
And it affects. I mean, I'm in two boats about this because I say all the time I have an emotional integrity where I'm not affected by others' thoughts of me until it comes to Nicola. If she fucking cracks it and gives me a servant, oh man, can it roll me up and can it wobble me a bit? Like if she calls me out, especially if she calls me out on something that I know I need to do better, like it rattles my confidence. Like it really, really, I really have to swallow the humble pill. And so when you're not in harmony with your woman, when the house is not harmonious, it's fucking shit walking around on eggshells. It's shit feeling like you're not doing enough or you're not being your best, and that you feel you feel somewhat shameful or guilty of your actions, and then you're in like a little sulking corner of your mind, like it's really not a good place to be. And so many guys are navigating their days with their partners like this because they're not taking responsibility. How about you, Dino? You dropped out there.
I'm back. I guess I go back to my oh shit moment, which because I think mine's a bit more simple, but like oh shit moments, just looking in the mirror, seeing a bit of a fat slob over time, and also mates. Like I'm 40, all my mates are 40, 42, whatever, and they're all starting to talk like, you know, they're getting busted knees and sore shoulders and busted backs, and they're all like talking like they're old and I can't do that anymore. And I'm just like, no way, it's not. You're not that old yet. So for me, that was a sort of big motivator. And I think I got a 6-month-old now and a 4-year-old, and probably have another one. You know, I'm going to be late 50s when they're sort of 18. I'm like, I've got to keep up the physical till then, you know, and that also comes in the same as all you other guys. I think your partners will end up respecting you a lot more. Your kids will respect it a lot more, and nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, the aging thing's such a scam, eh? It's like it's what you put in your body. It's how you train yourself. It's how you reduce inflammation. It's how you keep stress out of your body. It's the shitty stuff, the laziness that you're doing that's buckling your back and getting your knees and your hips tight.
Yeah.
Good Simon, fucking chewing through it. Smashing through it. It's such a good example. And I don't know if you guys follow some older dudes, but there's some absolute fucking weapons on Instagram, like these like 50, 60, even 70-year-olds. There's this old guy called Canty Chiba in Brisbane, and he does all calisthenics like rings and handstand push-ups and stuff. And he's 70, and his thing is always use it or lose it, use it or lose it, use it or lose it. He's just like, I've been working on myself for 40 years. You know, don't stop.
Can I just make a comment, mate? Should have swallowed meat, shouldn't I, before I unmuted? Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of young dads on here, which is awesome. And when your kids are young, it is very noticeable. If you actually can't keep up with them by the time they get mobile, it's a real pretty uncomfortable feeling that you got to get yourself in shape. And you're right, it doesn't get any easier, guys. And the footy injuries come back, and you just got to, and I had probably a 10-year period where I did fuck all training, and just took me longer to get back into shape. But there's so many things that have transformed my health, which Jordan knows about, in the last couple of years. But just a little bit of, so I've got a reunion with 6 of my primary school mates this weekend, and it was my turn to organise it. So they're all coming to the Sunshine Coast. They live interstate. Most of them live interstate. One of them lives in Brisbane, but most of them are flying in on Friday. And I've organised the apartments down in Mooloolaba. So you can imagine what it's like. They're all my age. Some of them are fit, some of them are very unfit. And I told them all, I reckon a few months ago, that when they come up, that I wasn't drinking. And you know what the majority of them said? They said, well, we'll have to shift the weekend. Like, when are you going to be drinking again? I said, that's not the point. I'm going to drink sparkling water and I'm still going to have a good time, guys. I'm still going to hang out with we all went to primary school together. We all grew up in the same country town. We're all mates. You can change it to October, but I might not be drinking in October. I'm still the same person. I don't have to, and they sort of had a aha moment saying, yeah, okay, I guess so. Yeah, okay, you're not drinking. But it's funny, the first thought they had, well, do you want to change the weekend so that you can get on the piss with us? Like, when are you going to start drinking again? Anyway, I just thought it was worth noting, given it's coming up this weekend.
Yeah. The culture will always try and tear you back down until you're in a new frame of mind. I think that's the hardest thing for most guys when they start making these changes. They have to detach from their current norm. I had to detach from buying a bag of Coke and 15 pingers every weekend. That's what I had to do to become a better person. I literally had to overcome the standard of me ringing up my dealer every Thursday and teeing up a gear for the weekend. That's what I had to do. It's like, for me to detach from my group of mates who that was a norm, and then stop drinking, and then I actually moved myself away for 6 months and went stone cold sober for 6 months. I had to like fully detach from that person because that person was a fucking write-off. Nearly killed himself. So yeah, it's not an easy thing to do, to evolve beyond your past, but it's so rewarding. And yeah, I'm so frothing to have this conversation, because there were two conversations I had this week that I was just, man, I've got a bit riled up inside, thinking there's still this behavior rampant amongst men, but more importantly with children around, fathers. And so I wanted to talk to you guys and see where you're at with your journeys. And it's nice to have a bouncing board with this stuff, because I feel like a lot of dads don't really talk about this stuff. And that's what is so awesome about this call, is we can really talk about some valuable things that aren't happening on site, or aren't happening at the workplace, or aren't happening over coffee. It's like, these are the conversations that help the compass stay true north. So last couple of minutes, I want to finish on what you guys want. Like, what do you guys really want? I know we've discussed the relationship with your kids. What's the relationship with your wife, and what's the relationship even within your business? Nick gave me some feedback yesterday saying how his employees respected him more when he got fit. They started asking him what he's doing. They were curious about the changes and the weight he dropped, and looking good, looking energetic. But like, by making changes, what are your wants? Like, what is the shit that you really want out of life?
I'm happy to answer that. I mean, for me, it's just freedom. Just that freedom to be able to do whatever we feels right for the boys, right for us. Yeah, I think that comes from having a clear head, being fit, being on top of everything. The business side of things is it's not a challenge. It is a challenge. It's a self-imposed challenge, because I've kind of stripped everything back and started again. But getting to a point where I'm very comfortable with it, and it gives us the freedom to move and do everything we want to do. And but if that answers the question or not, but that's the thing that comes into my head when you say what is the what, and that's what it is for me.
So it's being free from limitations in fitness, health, family, business, having that freedom across all areas. Dean, you're unmuted, so I'll get you to jump in there, bro.
Is that me? Sorry.
Yeah, you're still unmuted, so I thought I'd just throw.
Oh yeah. I don't know. I think Tom sort of summed it up perfectly. Then I'd have to just second that motion, really. And yeah, I think when you're healthy in body, healthy in mind, it just goes into every way of your life, and that's the goal.
100% back that. As
I don't know, dude. What do you mean? Like, what do I really want, like as like the end goal? Is that what you're saying, or?
Yeah, so by making the healthy changes, like what is the purpose? What do you want out of those actions? Because it's going to require effort and sacrifice. So what's worth doing the effort and the sacrifice for?
Yeah, what I really want out of making the changes is to just keep making myself proud. Like I just want to keep building my self-esteem and making myself proud. Like what I want in life, in any regard, I don't think can come without me constantly doing that. That's all. Yeah, and there's lots of things that I do want, like especially ultimately what Tom was saying. Yeah, freedom. Like I want to be able to create the space that I need, like financially, to do what I want with my kids, like provide for them, whatever that looks like in terms of schooling or not schooling or where we live or whatever. Ultimately, yeah, of course, that's the thing. But what I want out of just changing my actions and making positive changes is just to keep building self-esteem, to give myself the confidence to keep pushing towards those goals every day, because it's just not like how you're going to get there. That's how you're going to get there, is to just keep building, doing the positive things, taking the positive action and not taking the negative action, and that hopefully it just keeps compounding in every way, and you can maybe get close to those ultimate goals that we all have, which are probably all pretty similar.
For sure. For sure. Great share. Simon or Nick, anything different to that, or you guys are pretty in tune with that?
No, yeah, very profound words, guys. Like for me, it's like I don't know what you think of this, Jordan, but when I've had people that I've gone out for business lunches with, and I've been very conscious of telling them that I don't want to eat shit. I've been saying, if you're going to take me out for lunch, I'm eating carnivore. So for me, it's just having a lifestyle that is, rather than say I'm on a carnivore diet, I eat carnivore, and I just have some variations on carnivore. And overall, it's just like, this is the norm. This is not something you come in and out of. This is the lifestyle I now want, so that I gain, again, that respect word from my kids, my parents, my family, anyone my business colleagues, my staff, the wider Sunshine Coast community who I do business with, that you're just creating a better version of yourself through the decisions and attitude you've got.
And so for you, it's like integrity and the example you set.
I'd like to think that, and a lot of people, Jordan, and the other boys probably wouldn't have. I mean, I blew out 105 kilos, just insane. I've never been that heavy in my life. That, I'm getting comments now, but that I want that to be okay. Look at the turnaround Simon's had in his life, and yeah, it's just that guy's got his shit together. Like, how have you got your shit together, mate? And a lot of it's just changing your attitude, changing your behaviours, having a belief in something. I've told so many people about like legacy dads, and I haven't really gone into it too much, but it's mainly about the training and the food. But yeah, I just want people to look at me and say, that bloke's really got his shit together.
Yeah, it's a respect that it's a level of respect for yourself that's then reciprocated from others. Solid, fellas. Solid. I can see that we're running over, so I'm not going to hold you up too long. But yeah, I just really wanted to use you guys as a bouncing board tonight, and you're all men that I respect, and it's very clear that you have similar and aligned values to me as a father. We're not out there playing up and doing bad by our family. We're out there doing our best and actually actively becoming our best as well, which is super important to me. And I really appreciate having some men to be able to talk about this stuff with, because conversation that I had a couple of days ago, it wasn't the same, and it just made me question, like, what is the caliber of dad out there? You know, I'm a young dad. I've got a 2.5-year-old. I've got another one coming in a couple of months. I'm just starting my journey as a dad, but I do hope and I'm optimistic that, you know, there's a little bit of an awakening in men to realize, like, this shit is serious. It's you're not 20 anymore. You're not like a teenager trying to get roots and taking pills and fucking out drinking and yahooing and whatever. Like, if you were like that in the past, it's time to clean your act up and pass on to your children something you're proud of. And if you weren't like that in the past, it's your opportunity to lead the way and be like, hey, you know, I wasn't like that. I had a strong fatherly figure in my life. You know, like, look at like the story of H. You know, there's every indicator that he's not going to go down that line because of the foundations you've laid for him, Simon. That's a huge thing. Like Aaron said, that's something to be very proud of and hold close to your heart, because you've done the work, obviously, and it's shown in your sons, the way your sons turn up. So yeah, awesome work, fellas. Really appreciate it. And yeah, just love this chat every week. I get so pumped for it. Nick and I, whenever we have dinner before the chat, she's like, "Oh, what are you doing tonight?" And I'm just G'd up to catch up with you, and it helps me set my focus for the next week, the next 7 days. And yeah, I really look forward to getting onto it. So thanks for being a part of it. Really appreciate you, fellas. Very good.
You guys are all legends. Look forward to next week's chat. That was epic, mate. Love that.
Yeah, definitely.
Apologies, I was late.
Cheers to you, Jordan, for organising, mate.
All good, fellas. My absolute pleasure. All right, you can unmute yourselves and we'll speak to you soon.
You will,
See you,
mate.
fellas.
Thanks, fellas.
See you next week.
Love your work.
Catch
Stay
up.
safe, all.
See you guys.